Okay, can everybody hear me okay? Sound is working? Okay. And one other thing before I actually start, jumping into the presentation itself. When I was, this is my second conference. I was here a year ago and really wanted to come back as a speaker and went through the whole process. And one of the things they have you do is to work with a coach. And what the coach talked about is just the power of storytelling. And so really encouraged me to do that. And that really resonated with me because my hobby is writing science fiction novels. So I write science fiction thrillers. So if anyone is interested in writing or science fiction, be happy to stop by. I have my writer card here too, along with my other card. So why don't we get going? Again, I'm Bruce Landay. I'm with Schneider Electric. I'm here to talk about our Tableau engagement journey. So a little bit about the agenda, just a quick introduction to Schneider Electric, talk about where we started in our journey, the improvement actions that we took, because we obviously needed some improvement when we started looking, talk about the business user engagement enablers, the things that really helped us move things along to really help us scale up. And then talk about where we are today. We will have some time at the end. Would like to open up the audience. I'll be asking some questions throughout the presentation just for you guys to think about, and would really appreciate some of the lessons that you've learned along the way. Again, we've got a whole bunch of people in the room. And my goal here for this presentation is that you walk away with something that you can take home to your organization. I know whenever I go to a presentation, it's always, the question I always ask myself is there something that I could use that I get to walk away with? So let's see if I can make that true for you today. So quick introduction to Schneider Electric. So at Schneider Electric, our technology ensures that life is on everywhere, at every moment, for everyone. It's quite a statement, isn't it? Let's find out what that's about. We're all about energy management and automation, and we're trying to digitize that. We're a large global company. We have over 137,000 employees, and we're in 100 countries. And we're globally dispersed, so about 28% of our business is in North America. And while we're very much a manufacturing company, we're also very much a technology company. We've got approximately 20,000 application and software engineers, and we have deep domain experience in a number of areas you can see on the screen here. We also deal with some of the largest organizations in the business. Chances are that some of you in the audience, maybe you're one of our customers. So hopefully that's the case. I'm with Schneider Electric North America, and I'm with Global Supply Chain. I'm a supply chain expert, and so part of the world we deal with is U.S., Canada, and Mexico. We've got a lot of plants in Mexico, so I've been down there many times. As a company, we've been using Tableau since 2016, and we have over 21,000 people on Tableau Server with Schneider Electric, so we're pretty big users. In North America, we have over 6,000 people on Tableau Server, and we have over 700 people creating content. So again, we're pretty serious, pretty dedicated to the product. So just some questions for you to think about, and I'm just going to ask you just to think about this throughout the presentation. At the end, we're going to open up to the audience. Are you in an operations role or an IT role? The last time I did this was at our local tug group in Milwaukee, and there it was kind of funny. It was skewed the exact opposite the other way. It was mostly IT folks that were there. And you may also be in a role like I am, where I'm kind of that bridge. I've been a business analyst for a number of years. I did spend 2 years on the data analytics team, which is where a lot of this experience came from. And for me, I was always that guy in the middle, very much, very steeped in the business. I'm a supply chain expert, and I was pretty good on the technology side. I can talk in ones and zeros on a good day and understand what the technology folks are telling me. But there's an awful lot of translation of, what people ask for are not necessarily what they want. Anyone ever had that experience? Yeah, I've been on both ends of that one, both trying to deliver to people and then trying to ask for things. And so that translator is very important. And also think about your geographic scope. Is it a single entity, maybe a single location? Is it many locations? Is it a country? Is it the whole world? So think about that as well. So let's talk about where we started. This comes from when I was on the data analytics team, and we started, I'm thinking somewhere in 2017, that's when I joined the team. We're working on it then, and the picture on the left, that was team vision. Man, we were cool. We were going to jump in our jet airplane, we're going to take off, head off for the sky, it's going to be easy, pull back the throttle, pull back the stick, plenty of room in the back, we're going to take lots of people along. Okay, we all have that beautiful vision, blue sky, gorgeous day. The picture on the right was a little bit closer to reality. We didn't have quite so much room on the back to bring people along. Things didn't go nearly as fast. The ride wasn't quite as smooth. And so we learned some things, and I'm sure you've all learned some things along your journey, along the way, which I'm probably guessing why you're here. So here's some of the early efforts that we did. We were focusing initially with the metrics, the key process indicators, the kinds of things that the VPs ask for and that drive their world. Yeah, very typical. The other thing we're trying to do is that whole transition away from Excel and then from all of our SQL Server reports, of which we had a lot. And I'm sure all organizations, we all love our Excel. I know I love Excel. And I'm sure a lot of places have SQL Server as well. You know, it's for a little bit bigger data. And some samples that we did early on were things like service, how well we're serving our customers, back order lines, where we're getting our products out of our factories, and inventory, supply chain. I'm all about inventory. As a group, we're all about inventory. And it was a year ago, it was actually last November. We had been working on this quite a while. We invested a lot of time. We had a lot of people working on it, built a lot of dashboards. And we stepped back and just said, hey, are people really using this? So we started digging in to answer that question. And I'll tell you, the answers coming back were not pretty. Okay, yeah, I'm seeing a couple of head shakes here. You know, so it's similar kind of experience. And you know, just in terms of numbers, you'll see these numbers later. We had 2 projects, 44 workbooks, 158 views, and we had about 80 users. And 80 users for us was a pretty small number because we looked probably 10, more like 15, were people that were involved with developing content in one way or another, or tied to the project. And so we started looking at that and just said, hey, for the amount of people that we were trying to reach, this is a very, very low number. And that was a real reality check for us. So we went on a search for answers. I mean, the big aha that came back was we had a very, very low level of user engagement, and we need to figure out why. So we started by looking at our existing reports, saying, okay, where's the overlap with what we do today? Why is it that people aren't looking at this? Why aren't they clamoring for the stuff that we built? We love these reports. We did a fabulous job, right? And I'm sure you're all thinking the same things for your reports. And then we started meeting with our key users to brainstorm on how to engage with people. What did we need to be doing differently than what we were doing? So here's some things that we learned from our business users. The biggest thing is they just didn't know what Tableau was. They didn't know what was available on the server. They didn't really understand what Tableau was or how to use it. People had no idea how to interact with the workbooks. This was very new. They understood Excel, PowerPoint, but Tableau, what the heck was that? It was very difficult for people to move away from that comfort of Excel. We all love our Excel. I mean, I'm very attached to my Excel sheets. Aren't you attached to yours? Oh yeah, I'm seeing some smiles here. I can do anything I want in Excel, darn near. I mean, it gets to a certain size, really ginormous. And people were very comfortable with raw data. I've got a number, I can hang my hat on it, I know where this came from. I understand this. And I'm going to giving other people answers on this, and my reputation is on this. Okay? And I'm no different. I've been an analyst for many, many years, and I'm exactly the same way. So these were all very familiar things that we're hearing back. At that time, also started working with our Tableau admin, and he was new to the role. I was relatively new to Tableau Server. I'd been working with Tableau Desktop for a couple of years at that point. My dashboards were not all that great, but I was working on it. I was trying to learn. And we started looking at some of the structural things that were going on to try to understand what's going on. And so we started looking at our sites and our projects. And we figured out very quickly that we had way too many projects on a single site. We had effectively one site for all of North America. And we had about 60 projects. And people were publishing things in the projects, but these were all kinds of different business users. And what we figured out is there was no real plan. There was no one in the business really owned it. Tableau, oh, that's those IT guys, right? Yeah, that's not us. And so we figured out we need to be doing something different there. And so we need to engage the business. So some questions for your journey just to think about. We can talk about this at the end. Did your organization have some similar experiences when you were starting out? Or maybe you're still there today. You're very early on. And then think about how you approached it or how you want to approach it. So improvement actions, that's what you came here for, not just to hear me talk or just to commiserate with you guys. So one of the first things we did is we resolved our structural issues. What we found is that for global supply chain, we were actually the biggest user in North America for the amount of dashboard. Now it helped that we had a team of people building stuff, not just certain departments. And so what we did is we created a separate Tableau site just for us, and then we limited the number of Tableau projects. We wanted to make sure that the projects that we had on made sense, that we were housing the right things together, and so that we could pull in the right user base. And so here's the ones that we had. GSC Analytics is Global Supply Chain Analytics, and I was on the analytics team. So we put our stuff, and these were mostly the KPIs and the metrics and all the usual businessy sorts of stuff. We're also working with our NAM logistics team, the transportation folks, and they were also had real interest in our DCs, our distribution centers. And they also had a couple of people that were full-time developing Tableau content. And so we wanted to house all their stuff. They were set up on another project, but they had a very similar user base. We're also implementing a control tower concept at the time with the company. And a control tower, think of kind of like what you see at the airport, and that was to keep track of where our trucks were, where products were in the system, were they out at the vendors, were they at our plants, were they at our distribution centers, were they moving out to our customers. So we really want to get a better handle on where things were in our network. And then finally, we had a group of people at the plants that were getting excited about it. And for those of you that are in large companies, there's always far more demand from IT than can ever get fulfilled. So what happens? People build stuff themselves. Yeah, because it's fun. And so people were getting excited, and we're beginning to build Tableau dashboards on their own. And what we want to do is we wanted to bring them in under this umbrella, to help them. And one, it would give them a place to house it so that they could share it easily. We wanted to be able to share best practices. We didn't want all kinds of things to get out of control. The other thing that we offered them was, as a central team, we had access to data and data sets that they did not. And we wanted to have one version of the truth. And I know that a lot of companies talk about the one version of the truth. How many companies actually get there? Well, you get close. You try to get there, but you really don't want to get 17 flavors of the same report. And I've been in companies that we've had that. I'm seeing some familiar nods from the audience here. Yeah, been there, done that. Yeah, have a whole closet full of those T-shirts. The other thing we worked on is we wanted to improve our administration. When I first started with Tableau, I was, again, working on desktop for a couple of years, and then I was very interested in server. And there was a gentleman who was driving the server aspects of it. He needed to free up his time to work on a data lake project and was looking for someone to take over Tableau. I was very excited about Tableau and raised my right arm, said, sure, I'll volunteer for that. Not that I knew what I was getting into, but I volunteered anyway. And when I first started, what we wound up doing before we'd set up our own site is I was a project admin. That little bit of power, ooh, I could do writes. I could have some power here. I like that. Well, I figured out in a hurry, as a project admin, I could see stuff, but I couldn't really fix anything. And so I kept saying, oh yeah, I fixed this for you. And then, no, not really. But once we set up our site, I became a site admin. And as a site admin, I actually do have the power to give people access. And so that was also a big change, which was kind of nice. And at that point, our server admin was getting tied up with a lot of that thing. So he was happy to hand that off to me because he could focus on other things. So I was focusing more on the day-to-day user access, making sure people could get at the site, and our server admin then could focus on things that he needed to do, which is more the technical side of it. Tableau very thoughtfully creates new versions of software to roll out, every 3-4 months now, it seems, with these new lovely features. And so our admins are pretty busy taking care of that. We also want to make sure that we're partners in this. Schneider Digital is our IT group. And so we wanted to make sure that we were being good partners with them. And so Schneider Digital was focused really on the server administration, making sure that I always refer to it all the plumbing is working. And so all the magic happens. Where as a site admin on the business side, I was focused on other things. So I was on the data analytics team until earlier this year. And so part of what we did was to create workbooks. And I'm still tied to that team a little bit because I'm still the site admin. And a lot of what I brought to the table and what our group brought to the table was the business relationships. The IT folks, they really knew the technology, and they knew other folks in IT, but they didn't have the ties to the plants, to all of the other staff functions, which our group did, and then I personally did because I'd spent a lot of time working with the plants in some prior roles. Handled the site administration. I spent a lot of time working very closely with our Tableau admin because we were both new with the roles, and we're both at that learning curve. So we were spending a lot of time together. We also want to make sure that we're following good standards that were handed down by our global team. Make sure that we're both following that. Because again, we're a large company. We want to make sure that we're on board with good practice for the rest of the company. Another thing that we really focus on is we streamline our security. And there are certain things that you can do when you're at a small size, you're starting out. We did a lot of stuff at the workbook level. And it works, it's secure, it's okay. But when you start scaling up, it becomes very cumbersome and very difficult to keep track of. And so the biggest thing that we did, and the one thing I would really highly, highly recommend is, number one, use security groups. Number two, use Active Directory. And don't ask me questions about how Active Directory works. It's the magic. That's why I asked there's IT folks in here. Talk to your friendly neighborhood IT person. They can explain that to you, or at least make that magic happen. But you do want to use security groups and Active Directory if you can, because it makes it very, very easy to add people. Very, very simple. We do nothing at the workbook level today. We do everything with security groups. And for me to give a new user access takes me about literally 60 seconds. I have to look up their employee number, and then I go into server, assign them to 1 or 2 security groups, assign them to the role, and I'm done. It's that quick, and that's why you want to do this. The other thing we did is we wanted to make sure that we were coordinating with that global team, and they were big on naming conventions. And at first we were like, okay, we don't have that many things, but okay, we're good corporate citizens, we'll do that. That actually worked out really, really well for us. The biggest thing that naming conventions do is they add clarity. And I don't know about the folks in the room, but clarity in business is a wonderful thing because we deal with a lot of hard things in our day-to-day lives in business. And so it really adds a lot of clarity. And so it's not so much the exact standard that you follow, but it's important to follow a standard. Figure out what's going to work for your organization. And what's nice about it is that as a site admin, I can look at basically any security group in the company. We have a lot of different sites, and I've got a pretty good idea of what the security group will do and what this particular user can do. And it really does make things a lot easier, and it really helps you to bring things to scale. So some questions for your journey, something to think about. Again, we'll refer to this at the end, is what type of structural or administrative issues did you run into? And then what improvement actions did you take? Think about the things that you did or that maybe you want to do. So this is a part that I really enjoy. It's the business user engagement enablers. Okay, say that 3 times when you're drunk. These were the things that really made a huge difference for us in terms of adding a lot of people, and that's always the goal here, because our organizations have made a very big investment in Tableau, in terms of buying the product, in terms of all of our time, and all the other expertise that it takes to do that. So we really want to be able to really leverage that. One of the things that we found is that you want one organization to really own that cost. What happened when we first started is Schneider Digital, our IT group, they bought the server, bought all the licenses, and they took it out of their budget. And anytime we wanted to add somebody, it was, oh, did we mention the chargeback? And so we were going to a plant manager and saying, hey, we'd like to add 10 people there, and oh, by the way, here's the bill, and this bill is due every year. And the first thing that comes back is, whoa, that's not in our budget. What's this Tableau thing anyway? It became a huge roadblock for us. And so what we decided to do as a corporation is we just got rid of that. We just said, look, IT owns it. We're setting aside for their budget. We're not trying to do the chargeback. The accountants probably have better things to do than to worrying about shifting it from one pocket in their suit to the other pocket in the suit. And we'd already paid for it. We already paid for it all. And so that removed a huge roadblock for us. The other thing that I think was really, really important for us, and I think for other companies as well, is you want to make it easy for people to get that access. We're like most large companies, we have IT tickets, and IT tickets for most people are kind of a love-hate thing. I mean, it's nice, you can lodge a ticket, it will eventually get fixed, but it's always a frustration at first. But we had a rather cumbersome ticket process, because at first a lot of it was around trying to get Tableau Desktop, or Tableau Desktop rather than Tableau Server, because early on that's what people are doing. And for Tableau Desktop, obviously there needs to be a little bit of a higher bar, for getting it. The cost is a little bit higher, people's investment of time, access to data, all those things. And so we had a process where we had to answer all these questions, and yes, I downloaded my free version from Tableau and all that good site. And it was kind of time consuming. But as we progressed as an organization, we found that we were just trying to add a lot of people to Tableau Server just to get content that other people had already created, which was our goal. And so the ticketing process that we had was rather cumbersome. So what we wound up doing is we replaced our IT ticketing process with a couple of things. One thing that we did was we really simplified the IT ticketing process. We split it into 2. We still had our original ticket where if you want a desktop license, there's that little bit of higher bar, there's some extra questions you've got to answer, and that's perfectly appropriate. And we also had a much more simplified one, which was, oh, you just need access to Tableau Server. Okay, what site do you need? What project? What, maybe which dashboards do you need? And then we can get it. And for us, we went really, really simple for supply chain. I just said, send me an email. I need an email. Give me an email. We have an employee number. We call it a CISA number. Send me an email with your CISA number. That's all I need. Because the nature of the dashboards that we had, we want to make it very open. We weren't dealing with things like HR data or financial data or things where we had to be much more selective about who had access to things. And so we want to make it very open. And so I started getting flooded with emails, which was fun because that meant people wanted to use it, which is what we're after. So once we did that, we went from sometimes taking days or, as people kind of wound their way through the system or longer because they were confused how to even apply for it, to sending me an email. If I'd see an email and, oh, okay, yeah, this only takes a minute, and I just interrupt what I was doing and just give them access. Because I know that when I'm requesting access, I like really fast response. Because, hey, I've decided I wanted this, I want it now. Yeah, we all want it now. We also really focused up on trying to scale up our user base. And so one of the things we did is we identified some target groups, and we just gave them access to Tableau Server. We didn't make them ask for it. We just said, look, we're just going to give them. And so the first group that we look for is the VPs, because these were the folks that had requested all of these different dashboards, all these metrics. They were the ones who were, basically, supporting all the things that we're doing. So we started with the VPs, and then we moved down to the plant managers, because again, we're a manufacturing organization. We've got a lot of production plants, and plant managers have a lot of responsibility. A lot of people report to them. So that was the next group that we went after. And then we went one tier lower. We were looking at the people that work for the plant managers, so things like the supply chain managers, purchasing managers, customer service managers, and these were the next group. And then people started talking. And as people started talking, they'd hear from their colleagues of, hey, did you see this dashboard? It's really cool. And we just made it very open and just said, look, if you want Tableau Server, just send me an email. We'll just give it to you. There's no bar. There's no chargeback. Doesn't cost you anything. Just ask for it. And we want to make it very, very easy. We want to really, really lower that bar. And we started adding users by the hundreds, okay, which was kind of fun until I ran out of licenses. And then I had to go talk to IT and say, hey, we want this other great big slug of licenses. And they're like, really? So we went back and forth, and so I made a deal with our IT group. We said, look, give us this big group of licenses, and what we'll do is after a certain time we'll start monitoring. We want to make sure that people are really using it. And so we got them to wait about 5 months, and we had pretty much open season. Anyone who wanted, we just add them to our site. And so we were literally adding hundreds of people, which was cool. We really liked that. And then what we started doing is we started running a query to say, look, were people actually using it? Because at the end of the day, if people were actively using the dashboards, it was money well spent. And we're getting value as an organization. If they weren't using it, then we wanted to free up those licenses. And so I had a very simple rule. If you did not log in the last 90 days, you probably didn't need it. Probably wasn't that important to you. So I pulled you off that site. Now, if a week later you woke up and said, I think I need it now, that's fine, I'll give it back to you. But we wanted to make sure that people were really active on it. And so at first we started having a fair amount of churn. I might take off 50 or 75 people. But what was kind of cool is that within about 2 weeks, I'd have another 50 or 75 people, and some of those people came back. Because what it was doing is word was getting out, and we're getting the right people. And that's what was really, really crucial. I still do that today. I run it every month. But now the numbers are a whole lot smaller in terms of people that aren't active. We've got the right group. The other thing that I love is it's a very, very rare day that goes by that I don't get at least one email asking for access to Tableau Server, which I love. It means that we're doing the right things and it's getting out there. So that's something I'm very excited about. Training is another huge, huge thing for us. One of the things that I found out is I worked with Tableau Desktop for a couple of years before I started getting Tableau Server, and I finally got access to, I could publish. Isn't this fun? And I got out to Tableau Server, and I did not have a clue. Not a clue. A site? Project? What's that? Where's my dashboard? How do I do this? Okay, and I've been working with Tableau for a couple of years, and so I thought, well, if I'm having this much trouble, if I'm struggling this badly, guess what? Our brand new users are too. And so I started talking to my smart colleagues. It's like, think if you've been to Tableau Server, you have all those little buttons across top, like subscription and email and all that. I had no clue what any of that stuff did. So some of my younger, smarter colleagues were explaining things to me, and then I started digging through all the Tableau help. And so I put together a class called Tableau Server for Users, and actually created some videos for that as well. And so taught some basic things like how do you navigate on Tableau Server? Just, okay, you get there, where do you find things? How do you click around? Finding workbooks, creating favorites. For most organizations, especially if you've got a team of people creating stuff, you start creating a lot of dashboards. And you see that this whole group, if you have the thumbnails, you see all these pretty pictures and, what's what? Not really sure. So teaching people how to set up favorites so they can find the content they want. It's not a search mission every time. Creating subscriptions, which I'll be talking about some more in just a little bit. Custom views. We're a large organization, and so we cover a wide geographic area, a lot of manufacturing plants, a lot of different businesses, and so we'll have metrics that will cover all these. But if I'm in a plant or if I'm focused on a certain business, I only care about my business, so I want to be able to set my filters down. So teaching people how to set filters and then how to save them in custom views. So that way, A, it's a time saver, and B, you get the filters right every time. Okay? I don't know about you, but my memory's only so good, and I kind of screw up the filters, especially if you've got multiple filters you're filling out. The last thing I had was a thing about downloading data, and this is something that we did with a little bit of trepidation, but decided it was what we really needed to do that. One of our goals with Tableau and Tableau Server is we really wanted to limit people from spending all that time massaging data. Because a lot of people would spend a lot of time, they're going to go after some data set or another, they have to do some massaging, they bring it down to Excel and they make their pivot table and do all that stuff. We want to get away from that. And so we're a little bit concerned about letting people download data. What we found, however, is that there are some legitimate reasons for doing it. Sometimes we use SAP, so sometimes you find something in one report and now you've got to go update SAP, and so you may want to download a small amount of data. And so what we wanted to do is show people, here's how to filter it down to what you need, just download what you need. But we want to get people away from downloading ginormous data sets and doing all the analysis themselves. Because that whole thing, that one version of truth. And the time saving. I mean, think of how busy we all are today. And I know in my career, just the pace of everything, in life and work, everything just is really shot up. And I'm sure many people in the audience have found that as well, just the stress level. So it was a time saver. When we first started doing the teaching, I was teaching it live, wanted to get some feedback, make sure that it was understandable, was kind of useful to people. Also created videos, put it out. We have something called My Learning Link, and that's available to everyone in the company. And so I tell people when I train them in a live class, don't worry about taking notes, I've got a video. And each topic has its own video. And it's great. I mean, think of YouTube. You want to know something on YouTube? You just do a quick search and you got a 5-minute video. And I try to make these very short, as opposed to just recording the whole thing in one shot. It was several, I think I had 5 or 6, like 3 to 5-minute videos for whatever topic. And that worked out really, really well. It's also, again, as you scale up, you're going to have a lot of people asking the same questions. And if you're the instructor, if you're the smartest person still standing, it's very time consuming. It's a lot easier. You can say, here, go watch the video. And it also means that you're getting a very consistent explanation. I do a lot of teaching. I like to think that I'm doing a wonderful teacher and I'm very consistent, but in reality, I'm not always. The other thing that we do in terms of training, I'm an instructor for our supply chain classes. We've got a supply chain fundamentals class. We've been teaching for several years. I was involved in developing that. And we did add a module to that. It's 2.5 days. And there's a module that we added to that all on Tableau and data analytics. So that's that introduction to Tableau. I'm also leading a team now to develop an advanced class. And there we're focusing on some specific some specific dashboards there of key metrics for folks in supply chain. The other thing that we do is we've got a group in Asia that does a lot of development for us for Tableau. Trying to look at folks on this side of the room a little bit so you guys don't feel ignored. Wish I had a bigger stage. And with that group there, they're developing a lot of content. And so I have spent a lot of time this year rolling out to the supply chain folks in North America to teach them how to use these new dashboards. And so I do spend a lot of time teaching. And I think it's really, really important because a good dashboard, if you go to any of the design workshops, they'll say, look, good dashboard, you can look at it for 10, 15 seconds, you know what's going on. Now, I know some of the dashboards I have created are not quite up to that level. And a lot of time there's a lot of information, or sometimes you'll have a dashboard or a workbook and it's got 27 tabs. And it can be a little bit overwhelming. And having been guilty of creating some of those monstrosities, because you do need the different views, you do need to invest time in training so people can see, here's where I find things, here's where the value is. So do invest in that training. I think that's really, really important. User groups. I think user groups are something big. How many people here belong to a TUG? Okay, I belong to the Milwaukee TUG. I found that to be incredibly helpful. I even gave this presentation there, so felt much more comfortable coming up before this large group today, coming to conference. But I think user groups are really important. We've got several user groups. I've got a couple of my colleagues in the back of the room there. They're the ones in the green T-shirts. They do something called Tableau Tuesday, and they're with the Business Reporting Competency Center, and they do Tableau training. They're more geared towards financial stuff and more towards people that are working on desktop. And they do a fabulous job there, and then they do a Tableau Doctor. And so that's a live group for North America. We also have a lot of groups on Yammer. I always refer to Yammer as professional Facebook for those that have it. And so we've got a number of groups there, and these are typically global. Because again, we're a very large global organization. One of the things that we really focused on is consolidating all of our reporting on Tableau. We want to get away from Excel, from SQL Server, from all the different websites that we've created. We want to get away from that. And so we made a huge effort this year to really transition our users, our reports and our users away from these legacy systems. And I love this photograph here. If you can see, she's inserting a floppy disk. The old 5.5-inch floppies are about 300K. Anybody remember those? Use those? Okay, so a few people here. Yeah, my first class in college was on an Amdahl with punch cards, and my first job after college, we had a Wang PC, so we were using floppy drives back then, and that was even before the 3.5-inch floppy drive. So I love this photo. We found that going to Tableau Server really gave us a lot of great benefits. The number one thing was it was web-based. So there's nothing to install in terms of software. All you need is a browser. So that really, really lowers the bar, makes it a lot easier. The reporting tools that we had were vastly, vastly better. Much better than anything that we had, much cleaner. We had, I got into a debate with one of my colleagues who's a little bit more old school. He was trying to do all this stuff in SQL Server and this other thing, and it's like, have you seen Tableau? No, I haven't looked. I said, Randy, please, spend some time with Tableau. Just the richness of what you can do is just so much nicer. And we also want to really have one source for reports. One place where we could go, where we could do all of our reporting, where we could send people. Go to Tableau Server, it's all there. And we're not 100% there, but we're most of the way there. We've done a really good job with that. The other thing that Tableau Server does is the improved report delivery. And one of the things that we did is we used to have a lot of manually generated emails, and we'd have people that would spend literally hours a week and they're doing the Excel stuff, and then they might, oh, well, we need to put this in PowerPoint, we're taking some screenshots, and then we have to paste it into an email, and then, oh, we have to send it out to 100 friends. Hopefully not too many of the email addresses will bounce. This all sounding familiar? Okay, we don't do any of that anymore. We just stopped. We said, look, we're going to do everything with subscriptions out of Tableau. And that really did a lot of things for us. And I've got the next slide, I'll talk to that. But one of the things that we discovered when we were trying to do this transition, and we had some of these email groups that were over 100 people, is we wanted an easy way to do it. And typing in 100 names gets kind of old. And so what we did is we set up a security group, and then we created the subscription with just that security group. And it's real easy. You create the security group, and then you can just, with a bunch of clicks, you can assign a whole bunch of people to that security group. And then when you create the subscription, you just say, here, send it to the security group. And that works out really, really well. Now, what we had hoped for was that as we added people to that security group, that they would automatically be added. Well, Tableau doesn't work that way. What it does is as soon as that subscription is created, it will automatically break out the individual names. And at that point, people have control over it, and they could control their own subscriptions. They could keep it, they could adjust it, they can do anything they want with it. So it didn't quite meet all of our expectations or our hope for, but for the initial setup, it's really slick and really easy, and something I highly recommend, especially if today you're dealing with sending out emails to a large group of people. It's a really, really nice way to set that up initially. The other thing that it did for us is just the whole user experience is so much better with Tableau and with using these subscriptions. Because what's nice is, again, we're all busy, and so if you say, oh yeah, just remember once a week or once a month, go out to Tableau and go check on that. Yeah, well, I know how much email I get, I know how busy I am, I'm not going to remember. I like having stuff pushed to me, and so did a lot of our users did. They really liked that. And so we set that up, but what's nice is they get it, and it comes in as a thumbnail. And so a lot of times they can look at, okay, is the trend going up? I can look at a couple of key numbers, that's all I need. It's good, I can file it, and I get some that way. But if I'm curious, if I need to dig in a little bit further, it's one click, and I'm in. And better yet, it's live data, okay? This is data that it's not just a screen capture that somebody did maybe earlier in the week. And this is something that is being refreshed on a scheduler, so I'm getting the latest data. And I can jump in the live report. If I need to filter it, if I need to do anything with it, I can do that. So just the power, the freshness, all of that is just a huge, huge improvement over the static screenshot that was a little bit fuzzy and wasn't quite what you wanted to see anyway. So this is a huge thing. And again, that power to be able to interact as opposed to just a screenshot. Naming conventions and tags are something that we also figured out were pretty important. As we kept building more and more content, which was good, and people liked more and more content, we started getting feedback that, oh, I can't find anything. There's so much there. And so what we stepped back and we said, look, let's try to make things more standard. Let's make it easier for people to find the content that they want to see. And so our focus there was mostly on the data analytics team, and so we did a lot of metrics, and so we changed our basic convention to what's the name of the metric, and then what's the source data. And so we had a couple of examples here, which I know are probably meaningless to most of the people in the audience here, but BOL is backorder lines, and QTC stands for quote to cash. And see, for our users, they would know exactly what this stuff is. It would be very meaningful for them. And I'm sure you would do similar types of things. The other thing that we did is we started adding tags. Think of search tags like in Google. And so what we did is we thought of any term that people would use for this metric, we want to add that as a search tag. And that way, once we added that search tag in there, we could just tell people, well, if you don't see what you want, you don't know what it is, we'll just type in what you think it might be, and then just use the find feature. And then it pulls up maybe 4 or 5 dashboards instead of 125 dashboards to look through. And so you get the 3 or 4 or 5, people could find things very easily. And then the first thing I tell people is, once you find something you like, save it as a favorite. Makes it so much easier, because then you're only looking at stuff that you like. I thought the whole thing this morning when they were talking about the suggested content, I thought that was really cool. I really like that idea. But we added this in the details, and so we added all of these tags. And that really helped people to be able to find content. And again, all these things are really built towards the goal is that you want to scale it. Okay, we're all here because we want to scale it. If we only wanted to show it to 3 other people, we wouldn't need Tableau Server. But we're all here because we are trying to extend this to our organizations. So some questions for your journey. What issues did you face? You know, what were the things that hit you when you were trying to scale up? Or maybe you're in the middle of it right now. And how did you engage your users? What were the things that you did? And I'm hoping to get people to talk about that in a few minutes. I do have some prizes for people that are willing to talk. Hopefully you can be bribed. Okay, let's talk about where we are today. And what I'm going to show you is this is just what we've done just in the last year, just to give you an idea. So let's talk about user engagement by the numbers. The gray bar was a year ago. The green bars are current. And of all of the numbers on there that you see, the one that I'm most proud of is users. We went up tenfold in a year. And that number I'm pretty proud of. And what I really love is that not a day goes by that I don't get an email. I'm looking on my phone. I'm seeing emails from people asking for access. Fortunately, my partner in crime here, who's the other site admin, he's not at conference, so he can take care of these while I'm here. But if you look at just the growth that we had over the last year, and to me, what that really signifies is just the value that it's bringing, that people are really excited and that they're using it. This morning at the keynote, he talked about data culture, and that's something that I've seen a huge change in Schneider Electric. Now, we've always been a numbers-driven company. We're a manufacturing company. We very much deal with technology. We have a lot of engineers. I'm an engineer by training, so that resonates. But I didn't think that we're really so much a data culture, and that has changed dramatically in the last 2 years, and especially this year. It's just really accelerated. And some of the things that I'm seeing is we have a global VP for data analytics. Okay, that's been new within the last couple of years. We've got a large data organization in Asia. We've got a big group of people that develop dashboards and content for global. We also have a data scientist team. And that's been fun for me because I spent several years building inventory optimization models in a product called LlamaSoft. And so I spent some time with some highly technical folks who were a whole lot smarter than I was. And so I deal with the data scientist team where they're building some models. And I get to ask them, they enjoy talking to me because I ask them questions that no one else asks them. To try to explain things, how the modeling works, what it's built in, all that kind of stuff. So we encourage each other. We also have a real commitment to Tableau. Again, that large data analytics organization, our data scientist team. We also have regional data analytics team. And again, up until earlier this year, I was on our data analytics team. And it's also just the whole way that so many of our conversations start around Tableau and around data. Very different than it used to be. In terms of that business impact, how that translates, we have all of our key metrics, they're in Tableau, and we have a global view now. We used to have a lot of things that were regional or with certain organizations. It's now global. We've also standardized our key metrics globally instead of just regionally. And we're really driving things globally. Very, very different. We didn't have that data before. We didn't have a way of doing that. We do today. I'm in supply chain, and so in supply chain, the whole thing is that end-to-end. So we're looking at our suppliers on one side, through our factories, through our distribution centers, all the way out to our customers. It's that whole end-to-end supply chain we look at. We're looking at it inventory, we're looking at it at production planning, and our whole distribution network. Again, Tableau is giving us a lot more visibility to be able to do all this stuff. And whether you're a manufacturer and that kind of thing, but even if you deal with other types, like a service type industry, think of your customers, think of where your service starts, and then getting out to your customers. It's that whole end-to-end view, I think, is really important. Some key lessons for us: make it easy for people to get access. I can't emphasize that one enough. Automatic access for key user groups, streamline your process. If you've got an IT ticket process, see how much you can simplify it. If you can do it like we did with an email, your users will appreciate it. But find a way to make it easy and quick for people. Training is another thing I can't emphasize enough. Tableau, it's a wonderful product, but if you're brand new to it, it can be a little bit overwhelming. And so you want to make it easy for transition for people. People are busy. We're all doing, we're all barraged with emails, with all sorts of things that we're trying to get done in any given day. And when we're adding a new tool, even a very powerful tool, there's a learning curve. And so you want to try to really shorten that learning curve. And you want to work with your new users so it's a fun process for them. The other thing is meet with your users and listen. And what to me is so cool about this is how much those conversations change over time. When we first started, the conversations were more along the lines where, okay, what's Tableau and why do I care? To be blunt about it was, okay, I don't know what this is. Why should I spend my time in this? And now, more than a year later, those conversations are dramatically different. It's now, hey, we'd like to build a dashboard. We've got this project. We think Tableau will really help us. Here's the kind of thing that we want to do with it. Very, very different conversations today. And it's fun. You'll see that in your organizations as well. And so this is an ongoing process, but it has been fun to watch that transition. So some next steps for us: keep engaging the business. User groups, I think, are real important. You want to keep those alive. Keep people coming back. Want to invite feedback on existing workbooks because needs change over time. People get more sophisticated. Their needs change. People will have requests for new books, and you want to be open to that. And I have those conversations fairly regularly with people that want to engage in a new project. And you always want to show that value through the business. How did you improve your business by using Tableau? And we've seen some big changes. Again, that whole thing, so many of our conversations today start with a particular metric or a dashboard and where we're trying to get to. Very, very different today. So last set of questions for your journey. Were you able to rapidly engage and grow your Tableau user base? And maybe you're in the middle of that, and maybe you're cranking up the engines now, ready for takeoff. And what were your key lessons? So think about that.